Hello and welcome to this edition of the News in English. My name is Serge Nhore. As always, we'll begin with the headlines. Unity Club has organized a dialogue on the history that led to the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. And on the international scene, Italian civil protection authorities have restricted access to a crater on Mount Etna, warning of heightened volcanic hazards. Now straight to the details. His Excellency, the President of the Republic, has urged Rwandans to embrace the painful history of the country and not be ashamed of it, but instead draw strength from it, draw strength from it while preserving national unity. The head of state made the remarks during a symposium on the history of the genocide against the Tutsi and the struggle to stop it, organized by Unity Club in Rwanda. Opening the symposium, the president noted that many of those who seek to defame Rwanda and downplay the genocide against the Tutsi are people burdened by shame, either of what they personally did or what was done by members of their own families. He observed that they refuse to accept, they refuse to accept that past, yet accepting it is the only path toward moving forward and only real remedy. President Paul Kagame stated that a country cannot be held hostage by people who want history to conform to their own version of events rather than what really happened. He added that Rwanda has given everyone ample opportunity to change and reject the path of evil. President Kagame also warned those who persist in distorting and downplaying the truth about Rwanda's history, despite Rwanda's continued efforts to engage with them patiently. This second session of the Unity Club in Rwanda symposium brought together more than 1,500 participants, mainly senior government officials and young people. The event featured two presentations, one examining the history that led Rwanda to the genocide against the Tutsi, while the other focused on the history of the liberation struggle and the campaign that brought the genocide to an end. Now, the President of the Republic has urged Rwandans to focus on activities that drive the country's development forward instead of being distracted by those who speak negatively about Rwanda. The head of state made the remarks while closing the symposium on the history that led Rwanda to the genocide against the Tutsi and the liberation struggle that brought it to an end. Closing the discussions, which brought together leaders from various sectors, His Excellency Paul Kagame commended the role of the country's security institutions in fostering national unity and advancing the country's development. The head of state also reiterated that every Rwandan should reject all forms of discrimination, stressing that it hinders development and serves no benefit to the country. He further called on everyone to make choices that safeguard the interests of the country and its citizens, emphasizing that building Rwanda requires the contribution of every individual. The Unity Club Symposium brought together leaders from various state institutions to exchange ideas, engage in constructive reflection, and develop strategies aimed at further advancing the country's development and strengthening the unity of all Rwandans. Now, economic analysts have been pointing out that the East African community should adopt stronger measures to ensure that all member states pay their financial contributions as agreed. They warn that unless the issue is addressed, the regional bloc will continue to struggle to achieve its objectives. Enola Gladys reports.
The East African Legislative Assembly has approved a budget of over $110.8 million for the 2026-2027 financial year. However, the persistent challenge of some member states failing to pay their contributions remains. Lidi Murorunkwere, an economic analyst, says member states should remove the obstacles that prevent them from fulfilling their financial obligations.
Member
states entered into agreements on how they would cooperate and work together, with each country playing its part in promoting the development of their region. However, some countries face internal challenges, and when the time comes to pay their contributions, they fail to do so or delay their payments. This creates obstacles to the functioning of the entire community, forcing the organization to focus on collecting the unpaid funds instead of allocating resources to their various activities it is supposed to implement. Meanwhile, Michael Shakanyarwaya, another economic expert, says the lack of unity among East African community member states undermines the planning and implementation of the bloc's activities.
What will happen? I was just reading and I saw that the budget is 110.9 million USD. So what will happen if people don't contribute? You don't expect that you don't expect that the operation will work easily, because contribution helps, to navigate. The contribution helps to coordinate. The contribution helps to have the policies and and different people, the consultants, to work on this project and what. Also, contribution helps to always have the meetings in February, where the head of states always meet in Arusha. So if people don't pay the contribution, you don't expect that the East African will work smoothly, or the activities will work closely. So the advice that I can advise the head of state, because being united, working together, staying together, unity, more especially in our country, we're always on the unity, accountability, and think big. So you won't grow, you won't go far if you're not working with other people. So all the member states need to think about the contribution, because the contribution helps us, as a business people, to move freely. That also helps us in movement of people. It helps us, in doing trading, because there is a peace, there is security, there is governance, there is, the secretariat is working hard. The MPs, they have meetings in different countries, because they have to move from one country to another country and maybe see what is the problem on the ground.
Sheka also says that the more than 300 million people living in EAC member states stand to benefit economically if the countries work together in greater harmony.
Had the issue of the taxes, tariff barrier, it was a big challenge here. Back in how many years, we could just use maybe like 15 days, 10 days of the trucks coming from Dar es Salaam, coming from Mombasa. But nowadays, take 3 days, and you find when you pay the taxes in Dar es Salaam or maybe in Mombasa, you just come directly to Kigali and you do your business. So it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge. So if they don't pay, two things: either some of the countries who are paying, they will start to operating their activities, and maybe those countries, they will decide to live in the East African community. Though it's not easy, because there's a lot of rules which was really implemented. It's not easy to say that you're leaving the community and you're staying alone. So people need to work hand in hand. Head of state needs to work hand in hand. And of course, the secretary cannot survive.
Over the past 3 years, the EAC's budget has continued to decline, with some planned activities failing to be implemented because several member states have not paid their financial contributions.
The residents of the districts of Gasabo and Rulindo are expressing their satisfaction that construction work to pave the Nyachonga-Mukoto road, which they were promised by President Paul Kagame, has begun. They say the road will facilitate trade and help improve their livelihoods. It was in 2014 that the president promised the residents that the road would be paved. Communities living along the road say they are pleased that the pledge has become a reality, and that they will finally see a solution to the transportation and development challenges they have faced for many years. Now, traders and others engaged in various economic activities in the area observe that the road will enable them to transport their goods to markets much faster, reduce costs, and help them to conduct their businesses under better conditions. Now, economic experts have noted that collaboration between established event management companies and emerging youth-led businesses is continuing to boost job creation and improve service delivery. The growing number of weddings, conferences, and other events being held here in Rwanda has created opportunities for groups of young people who have organized themselves and partnered with established entrepreneurs, enabling them to secure work as event hosts, masters of ceremonies, and reception staff. The economic expert John Bosco Kalisa says that partnerships between small and large companies play an important role in raising the standard of service delivery in Rwanda. The National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda has reported that in the first quarter of this year of 2026, Rwanda's gross domestic product grew by as much as 10%, reaching 6.346 trillion Rwandan francs, up from 5.276 trillion recorded in the first quarter of last year. The service sector continues to make the largest contribution to the country's GDP, accounting for as much as 52%, the industrial sector with 24%, agriculture with 19%, while other sectors account for the remaining 5%. Ibuka has honored individuals who were not targeted during the genocide against the Tutsi, but nevertheless displayed extraordinary courage by hiding those who were being hunted and helped them survive the atrocities. The event began with the laying of wreaths at the mass graves of more than 50,000 victims killed in Bisesero that are laid to rest with dignity. Marie-Madeleine Muka Nhabana, who was born and raised in Bisesero, lost around 40 members of her extended family during the genocide against the Tutsi and her 4 children. She said that after the genocide, she and other survivors were able to rebuild their lives thanks to the good leadership that Rwanda has enjoyed, leadership that places unity of all Rwandans at its core. Before the gathering in Bisesero, Madeleine presented a gift to Angelina, the woman who hid her from the Interahamwe militia and other killers, enabling her to survive. Angelina is now recognized as Umurinzi w'Igihango in the country. Ibuka has been calling on young people to learn of the truth of what really happened here in Rwanda back in 1994, in the years prior, so that they can use that information on social media platforms to challenge and counter genocide denial and minimization wherever they encounter it from around the world. The Vice Mayor of Karongi District, in charge of social affairs, urged residents to continue cooperating with government institutions in identifying individuals who participated in the genocide and were convicted by Gacaca courts but have yet to serve their sentences. The Bisesero Genocide Memorial is one of 4 genocide memorial sites in Rwanda inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List. Visitors say the memorials help them understand both the history of the genocide against the Tutsi and the determined resistance mounted by the people of Bisesero from the onset of the atrocities until May in 1994, when the self-proclaimed caretaker government decided to exterminate all Tutsi who remained at Bisesero. Now, survivors of the genocide against the Tutsi in Rugerero sector say they are grateful to the government for supporting them so that they did not remain consumed by grief and were able to rebuild their lives, although some survivors still require continued assistance. They have emphasized the importance of continuing to strengthen the values of unity and resilience. The president of Ibuka in Rubavu district has commended the courage of those who risked their lives to save others during the genocide. He is also calling on everyone to uphold what is right and stand firm against evil. The event to mark the 32nd commemoration of the genocide against the Tutsi in Rugerero sector was combined with the remembrance of women and children who were killed there, many of whose bodies were thrown into the Sebeya River. The few bodies that were recovered are laid to rest at the Nyundo Genocide Memorial and the Commune Rouge Genocide Memorial. Now let's end this edition, and I thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Until I see you again, it's goodbye.